Well, that's really was the reason why I came, to tell you the truth, because I don't do many speaking engagements outside of my work with Major League Baseball anymore, or my work as an author. But because they had the draw of children in baseball and this youth program through the college, I was like, I would really like to support that program, and I'm so glad I did.
You've got a number of books,
Yes.
and they are for kids.
11. Yes, I've published 11 books for children, fiction, nonfiction. A number of them are about my father or some story about him that helps to accentuate values and work I do with Major League Baseball.
Boy, and you think about the values and the things that you talk about in your book, especially with him. Boy, we need that kind of information today.
We all do, yes. We need a structure to help us figure out life's obstacles, which there are many of. And my father taught me these values through his actions. So he wasn't like he preached courage and commitment, but he did in his own way. And one of the most important moments in my life with my dad was when I was about 13 and he came home from having met Dr. King. He used to travel down south during the civil rights movement, and he came home and said, I've been traveling south for these years and doing work around the movement and supporting it and protesting, and you guys have been integrating your schools in Connecticut, but I really want to bring us together and make it a family mission. So we started our first, he talked about the importance of work and family and God, and but he felt we needed a family mission, and our mission was going to be around social change. And so our first family event was to go to the March on Washington, and then we started doing jazz concerts at our home to raise money for various organizations, mostly civil rights, but also some individuals that were affected by the civil rights movement, and families that were impacted by it. So it really truly did become a lifelong mission, but it started at 13.
How did the March on Washington change you? It had to be an impressive thing to observe.
It was my first time in a march, and in a march of that size, and it affected me in just when you're a child integrating your schools in Connecticut, you're kind of doing it on your own. The kids down south were part of a movement when they were integrating their schools, but up north we were just like random places integrating schools. So when you're part of a mass movement like that, it sort of makes you realize this is larger than just you.
The movie 42, I think that the scene when the scene when the Phillies manager is berating your father, I'll never forget that. That was one of the most uncomfortable movie scenes I've ever seen, and one that will always stay with me. And he experienced that. It gave me an idea of just a little bit of what he and your mother went through.
I think that's why it was one of the more important scenes in the movie, because it had that impact on children and on adults and baseball managers, and you need sometimes to be hit over your head with something that harsh to realize how pervasive it was and how much strength it took for him to play excellent baseball under that amount of pressure.
And it's often said about him that he and Branch Rickey had the agreement of he wouldn't fight back, but he did fight back in a way of just how he carried himself on the field, and when he made the plays that he made on the field.
Well, that's the exact point. It wasn't. He told Branch Rickey, said, "Don't fight back with fists or with words. Play great aggressive baseball." And that became my father's way of, one of my favorite times discussing this with my dad was when he told me about the black cat incident, because it was very dear to my heart since I always loved cats and he would never let me have one. So this little black cat story kind of put things in perspective. But when they threw the cat on, my dad said, I was furious, and they literally threw a black cat onto the field when he's coming up to bat.
Yeah.
He bats. He goes to second base, and then on the next hit, he comes home. And as he's trotting around the opposing player's dugout, he looks over to them and says, "Well, I guess I guess my cousin's happy now, because they'd call this black cat his cousin." So he absolutely had his way of fighting back. I love scenes where you see him when he knows he's got this stealing home, you know, and he claps and he jumps in the air. It's one of my favorite pictures of my dad, because, you know, it's like he studied it, he got it, he's going to do it, and that was his way of fighting back. So he continued that fighting back throughout his life, and that was an important lesson for kids to see, that he never stopped fighting back.
Next spring, when it's the 70th anniversary, that'll have to be really special for you and your family.
You know, every spring when it's Jackie Robinson Day and the country is focused on my dad is a special day for us. And the 70th anniversary, they're going to be, will be probably at Dodger Stadium, and there's probably going to be unveiling a Jackie Robinson statue, which is significant because it's the first sort of public bringing together of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Brooklyn Dodgers. You know, so my dad will be the first sculpture they're going to have outside of Dodger Stadium, a player sculpture, and it is this bringing together of the two very famous teams.
I was at Fenway Park this year for Jackie Robinson Day, and it was really something to see everybody, both the Red Sox and the Blue Jays that day, wearing 42.
I love that. It's quite emotional to me to see the player lineups and the coaches and managers, and then it becomes sort of, I sort of giggle the rest because I'm one of those ones that I depend on their names on the back and their number, you know, to identify the players. So when you go Robinson, I mean, number 42, you know, they all become number 42, so it makes it much more challenging for you to figure out who did what.
Well, but what a great way to remember your father.
And it's like in that in itself of not knowing exactly who the player is, it makes us remember we are one people, one human race, and we've got to work together to make good things happen.